Hello and welcome. My name is Leah Kopke, and this is my 3D modeling podcast, Ambient 3D Animations. Right now we're on the subject of Pyro, and we're going to go over what a simulation scene is. So let's go ahead and get started. Here we are inside of Cinema 4D. I'm going to drop a cube into our scene to use an example. We've covered all the settings for the Pyro emitter tag and the Pyro fuel tag in a previous episode. But if I go ahead and add one of these here to our cube, you'll see we automatically get the Pyro output. And we've also covered that and how the Pyro output works. So if you're interested in knowing about that, that's a good place to first start, and you can check out those previous episodes on my podcast. But today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about the simulation scene. And you'll notice something, that the simulation scene has all the same settings in here as what you'd find if you were to hit Control D or Command D on a Mac, depending on what kind of computer you have. You'll find the same settings in your project settings under Simulation Pyro. So the settings here are the same ones within your simulation scene. Now you can use these settings here to control the simulation. These settings are actually really powerful for controlling how your fire simulation looks, or if you're making clouds, how your clouds look. So it's really important to actually understand the settings in here. And we're going to go through all of them and how they work. I'm going to break that up into a lot of small videos. And it'll also make it easier to find what you're looking for. You don't have to sift through a 4-hour video to find one answer on one of these settings. That's the first thing to know, is that the same settings in here are what you can find in here. And if you click on your Pyro output, you'll notice this tab, Pyro Scene. So right now it's connected to the default simulation scene. So that's the one in our settings. If we want to override that with different settings, like you can have multiple Pyro outputs and multiple emitters in your scene. And if you want them to use different settings, you can do that. So I could rename this simulation scene example, and I could go ahead and drag and drop this into our scene. And now when we press play, the settings are going to be controlled by whatever I adjust in here instead. And this is really nice because sometimes you want different voxel sizes for different types of simulations. If you're having a large fire, it might be more fitting to have larger voxels, but if you're having a small candle flame, it may make sense to have different settings for that. So that way you can adjust different simulations within one scene so that they all can run together and not interfere with each other. And this is useful for all different types of simulations. So we've talked a little bit about how you can have multiple Pyro outputs, you can have multiple simulation scenes. Something important to recognize is that your Pyro output, under the Pyro scene, and then if you select scene, you can choose what elements are being used. So I could drag and drop this in here. If I wanted to add some forces in here, I could add in a turbulence. Then I could drag and drop this under the turbulence, and so on and so forth. So that's how you can know that those are the elements that are affecting this, and you can really control what forces are affecting what simulation within your scene as well, if you want different settings as far as that goes. So that pretty much is an overview of what the simulation scene is. We'll go through the settings and what a voxel tree is and all of that. very soon. So if you're interested in that, please hit like and subscribe and ring the bell so you'll be notified when the next episode comes out. Thank you so much for taking the time to 3D model with me here on Ambient 3D Animations.